where there's a lot of people, so just making sure no one's around. But I know I'm super long overdue in coming up with another financial boss video, and I said I'd come up with a part 2 on taxes. But before I do that, I wanted to talk quickly about Trump versus Biden tax plan, because elections are coming up in less than a month, and people want to know, and it's not something a lot of people understand. So I'm going to make it really easy for you, and hopefully if you're struggling with deciding who to vote for because you don't really understand their tax or economic policy, then watch till the rest of this video. Hope to bring you some more clarity. Okay, so let's start with Trump's tax plan, because that's easy. What he's essentially proposing is to preserve the Job Cuts and Tax Act that he did in 2016. And what Biden's proposing is obviously going to be quite an increase, step up to the current tax rates, right? And just because Biden's proposing it, though, doesn't mean that it'll happen. So let's get that out of the way, right? First off, the president doesn't enact the tax law. Congress does. So we should be looking for, whether it's going to the Democrats are going to take over the Senate, or it's going to be Republican, right? So that's really what is going to ultimately decide what our tax policy is going to be if Biden wins. If Trump wins, it's going to stay the same, right? Okay, so now let's go into what Biden's proposing and what are the implications on that for us, right? Okay, so when we talk about taxes, let's talk about the first thing people usually think of, which is the tax that's taken out of their paychecks, right? So currently the top tax is 37%. And what Biden's proposing, top tax rate is 37%. And what Biden's proposing is to change it back to 39.6%, which is what it was before, right? And honestly, it probably should have never gone down to 37%, because that doesn't really make a difference. And Biden wanting to move it back up to 39.6% doesn't really make a difference, right? They're both very just political moves for, Trump supporters or Democrats, just to kind of appease them. Overall, they're just trying to keep it under 40%, because once the top tax bracket goes over 40%, that's when people start to look at tax shelters. Okay, so if you're making under $400,000, it's not going to really impact you, whether Biden wins or Trump wins in terms of income taxes. It's going to stay the same. So that's kind of good news, right? Okay, so that's income taxes. Let's talk about capital gains. So there's two types of capital gains, right? There's a lot of types of capital gains, but most people think of two, which is, in stocks, bonds, like long-term, short-term capital gains, and then there's capital gains with real estate, okay? So if you're a real estate investor, you should not be paying any capital gains tax, not even a dime, because you should be doing something called a 1031 like-kind exchange, and I can go over that in a separate video. But if you're a real estate investor, you're not going to be paying any capital gains tax, and Biden wants to get rid of that, right? Okay, so just because Biden wants to get rid of the 1031 like-kind exchange doesn't mean that it'll happen. It's not going to happen because Congress has to pass it through, and a lot of presidents before him have said that they proposed getting rid of it. Never happened, right? And the reason Congress won't allow that is because what 1031 exchange does is it provides liquidity in the real estate market, and you don't want to take that away. So I just can't see Congress going along with that. What a lot of people don't talk about actually is that Trump already did eliminate 1031 exchange for personal property. So people used to trade their cars and their livestock for something higher value, and they never had to pay taxes on it. But now you can't do that because that actually went away under Trump. So yeah, that's capital gains for real estate. What about capital gains in the stock market, right? So capital gains in the stock market is a big one. Biden currently long-term cap gains are 15%. If you hold an investment for a year or longer, he wants to make it ordinary income rate. That's just going to have a lot of implications. If you hold an investment for less than a year, you do pay ordinary income tax on any gain you make from that. But if you hold it for at least a year or longer, you are not paying your ordinary income tax rate. You're paying 15%. So that's one of like the attractive factor, features of investing in stocks and bonds, mutual funds, whatever, paper assets, right? So Biden wanting to make an ordinary income tax is it's not going to encourage more investing, which is not good, right? But is that going to pass through? I highly doubt it. I think the only two things that are going to get passed through are him wanting to increase income tax rates for people making over $400,000. And the third thing I'm going to talk about is him wanting to raise corporate taxes. And that's huge. He wants to raise corporate tax rate. Currently, it's at 21%, and he wants to raise it to 28%. That is a huge jump up for corporations. And I think that is the biggest drawback to Biden's tax proposal. At 21% currently, we're almost a tax shelter country. It's a great place, U.S., to start a business here. If you saw my previous video, if you're a business owner, you pay very little to no taxes if you do it right and you have a great accountant. Okay, but talk about that in another video. And the 21% tax rate is not to benefit U.S. companies. It's to encourage foreign investments here. It's to encourage foreign companies to relocate here. So when Democrats start saying that they want to raise corporate rates, it's like sending an alarm and issuing like a notice to these foreign companies, telling them, hey, we better not do business here in America, right? And Trump actually wanted to lower the rate to 15%, and that would have absolutely brought so many foreign companies over, but he was only able to get it to 21%. But that would have been a great move. And we're currently already not competitive with our income tax rates. So at 21%, that was really the only attractive factor we had to bring people from overseas and foreign companies here. But at 28%, no one's going to want to move here, and we're losing a lot of economic growth and jobs and tax revenue being brought over here. So that's a shame. Okay, so if I had to choose a winner between Trump versus Biden tax plan, I think the winner is Trump. But again, anything Biden is proposing is probably not going to get passed through, which is good news. Except the only concern I have is him wanting to raise corporate tax rates. And if that does get passed through, that would be devastating to our economy. I think more of what we should talk about is probably like the immediate consequences of the PPP loans and the stimulus checks that are going on right now. I think Trump, from an executive order standpoint, did everything he can to help the economy out, to give him credit, right? With halting evictions and like loan forgiveness, right? So yeah, we'll talk about that in another video, but hopefully that brought clarity. So hopefully that brought clarity to Trump versus Biden tax plan. Biden, he's going to raise income tax rates and corporate tax rates. The other stuff probably not going to get passed through. Trump, he wants to keep things the way they are right now. And honestly, a lot of that policy has been really good for the growth of our economy. But yeah, if you guys have questions, please leave a comment below. And if you want me to keep making more videos like this, leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And let me know what you think, and I will make a video on it if you have any topics that you'd like me to talk about. Great. And thanks for watching.